Now, there's not much more that I love than finding great vintage books at the thrift store. And especially as a modern homemaker, there's some amazing things that we can take away when it comes to vintage dining from wonderful resources here like the Ladies' Home Journal. Hey there friends, I'm Heidi the Heavenly Minded Homemaker, and I love sharing here with you in just ways that we can beautify each and every day truly from the inside out. And one of my favorite things, honestly, is combing the thrift store for treasures. I would say that our home is a curated art shop of thrift store finds, and I love when I can find great books, especially when it is vintage books that are just full of such a wealth of resources for us modern homemakers. There's so many wonderful, beautiful things that we can find here that are such an encouragement. So lately I've been going through this Ladies' Home Journal book of interior decoration from the late 50s, and there are so many beautiful resources in this. I love all of the different tips and tricks, ideas and inspiration, even the little funny things. Like they have a whole section in here talking about not allowing the modern invention of television to take over your home design. And I wish I could sit down with the ladies that worked on this book. We have so many things we could talk about. But looking at this week I've been working on our family's menu plan, and just I love our dinner time together each day, and nutrition is so important, all those wonderful topics that we have been sharing about in this week's episode of Happy Homemaking. But modern takeaways from vintage dining, and I kept seeing in all of these beautiful images of dining spaces some of the same elements over and over and over again. And I think we, as the modern homemakers now, all these years later, can really learn a thing or two. Now, the first thing that stood out to me was the amount of simplicity. I thought that this was so interesting. As you guys know, I'm big on simplicity and the importance that it plays, especially when you're wanting to elevate your life in all areas. But noticing here the simplicity of the spaces, be it the images of kitchens, of dining rooms, even into the other spaces like living rooms and bedrooms, but things were very simple. Even in the rooms where maybe the wallpaper or the colors were a lot brighter and more kind of visually busy, everything else was drawn back in a way that there was still these great elements of simplicity to really make the areas that needed that attention and focus stand out. And I think we can learn so much from that. I think in our modern days, we are so busy with just so much consumption, right? It's Hobby Lobby always has new decor. There's always something new that's trending. There's always some other thing we want to redo and add in, more appliances, more this, more that, right? It goes on and on and on. And what I thought was really interesting is to see here again, back in the 50s when we didn't have things like Amazon Prime and Walmart and Target, just flooding us with so much stuff. I understand the world was a much simpler place as well. But looking at that and gleaning information from that of, you know what, maybe I need to simplify my kitchen and dining space. I think it is really important to come together, to have a meal together as a family, to break bread. I mean, that's one of the oldest, most intimate settings, is to come together, to gather and eat. That's so important, and I think something very lacking in today's society. Let's bring that back. And I think by really simplifying the distractions and the chaos and everything else around it, we're really going to see a major difference in our dining experience. Now, the second thing I really noticed was proper storage and stowing. Now, I do understand these images are all taken for the Ladies' Home Journal. They came in, set everything up, did their photo shoot. I get it. But still, we see this in especially vintage kitchens over and over and over again. Any of us who live in old homes, you'll notice there's this lack of storage, right? Modern homes to older homes, a big difference in the amount of cabinet space and storage places. And that's because there really wasn't this mass consumption and excess. There was a place for everything, and everything was in its place. I know our household, we love watching old TV shows. Honestly, because really nothing new coming out these days is worth anything, but also because the old stuff is just so beautiful and so well done. Our family loves things like Family Affair, the Dick Van Dyke Show, right? You watch those and you just see that, I get, again, they're TV shows, but still showing what it was like in that time period, you see so much tidiness, kids knew where things went, right? Everything had its place and it went there. They didn't need tons and tons of storage to store tons and tons of excess, but everything they had was properly stowed and had its place to go. And seeing that in these images really does give me that just encouragement in my space to go, what do I actually need? Let's make sure it has a spot. Let's make sure it gets properly stowed. That's why I just went through and kind of redesigned my whole life and went through my whole space, pulled out so much, got rid of the excess. And if that's an area that you're like, I wish I could keep up on this, be sure to check out those resources down below so that you can go through the system that we just put out of, let's walk through and clear all of that out. I'll put all those resources down there if that can be a blessing, because proper storage, proper stowing, absolutely gonna make a difference. Now, my third point here was really the first thing I noticed. I'm a florist by trade, so it's usually the first thing I notice in anything that I'm looking at, was that flowers were everywhere. There is not one image you see where there is not flowers, or at least a plant. But especially when it comes to the dining room, having the table set with fresh flowers on it was like a key component of having your table properly set and ready for your family and friends to dine at. Now, this is one of my most favorite things that I love doing, and I'm gonna share more with you here in this happy homemaking of how I set the table and get everything ready in a very simple and inexpensive way to bring this level of beautiful dining right here to our very own home with our family. And I think it's something that's so often overlooked. There is a reason why when you especially see in older movies or something like that, whenever you go to someone's house, you bring, some flowers. There was always that vase on the table, fresh flowers being put in it, flowers that could be cut right from the garden and brought in to set on the table and set the tone of the home for the dining experience. Now, even if it's just you and the family, you and the husband, whatever it is there in your home, taking a little bit of time to put some fresh blooms or even some foliage on the table as your centerpiece for dinner is always going to make the dining experience a little bit more lovely. Now, the fourth point is so simple and so often overlooked, I think, especially in American homes, and that was never underestimate a tablecloth. If you notice looking through these beautiful images and these settings, the tablecloth, right? There's something about laying a tablecloth out over a table that automatically elevates it and makes it feel like a fine dining experience, right? You think of those big, beautiful holiday meals or gatherings, right? And you think of the tablecloth laid out or going to a nice like boutique restaurant or something like that, and it's just so beautiful. Now, I personally love, you can find the best tablecloths at thrift stores all the time. I have plain white linens, I have lace. There's so many different ones that are always there for great, great, great prices. And having things like a tablecloth to lay out really just makes the space feel so special, so pulled together, so like formal and luxurious, and really is such a treat, even for the simplest of nights at home. Adding in that tablecloth is really going to bring your space up. Bonus points if you're using cloth napkins as well, as the whole thing comes together and really does feel so lovely and beautiful, but serves such a great practical purpose as well. So I highly recommend we all keep an eye out for a nice, proper tablecloth the next time we pop by the thrift store. The fifth point that I noticed in nearly every single image here in the Ladies' Home Journal that we can take away here as the modern homemakers from vintage dining, and that would be everyday items on display as decor. We see over and over and over again here in these images, china patterns, beautiful teapots, platters, things that are set out on sideboards and china hutches and really used as the decor for the space. I love when I think back to the Dick Van Dyke Show, right? They have their shelves there in the kitchen that she's always grabbing the china and stuff off of, because the things that were the open shelves, they weren't simply just decorations and dust collectors, but they were everyday items being used. I love collecting china from thrift stores. I get it so inexpensively. We use it every single day in our house, and I love it because if something gets chipped or broken, it's okay, it's fine. We always can pick some more up and kind of curate our collection as we go. But my girls, I know we all love sitting down and having our little vintage teacups and our little teapots and bringing out the beautiful plates and having them doubling serving as some decor around the home, but still being used on a normal basis, I think is really special and neat. I think so often we feel the need to buy the latest, trends and whatever decor items we think we need, when really we can take these timeless pieces and bring them into our home, set them up to be a level of decor and display, while also using them and putting them to use on a daily basis. So friends, those were my top 5 modern day takeaways from vintage dining. Again, I love finding books like this at thrift stores. You can always get them. I think I paid 49 cents for this book, and then I got a couple more even for free. But they're so fun to take these. I love sitting down with a hot cup of coffee or sweet little teacup and sitting down and just going through these, picking up the information, reading the insightful insights, and taking a little bit of that just vintage knowledge and treasure trove of homemaking beauty and bringing it into my day-to-day life. Now, this excerpt here comes from this week's episode of Happy Homemaking. So if you would like more encouragement on how to enjoy your home and your homemaking a little bit more, be sure to watch the playlist right here so that way you can see the full episode. Otherwise, we have some great stuff still coming out this week, so I will see you all right back here in the next one. Bye, friends!